Welcome inside to our cozy, comfortable, and constantly amazing studios here at League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you here today, and the LCK playoffs continue to roll on this weekend on Saturday. Afreeca's next opponent is Griffin, their third straight team that had a 13-5 record in the regular season. This is a difficult run for them, and they're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, they've certainly passed with flying colors so far, besting Gen.G and getting ahead of Kingzone most recently. But hey, you got to go up against the kids in Griffin up next.
Yeah, they've knocked off all the veterans, or most of the veterans coming forward, but let's see if they can take 5 rookies this weekend. We'll preview that set. The regular season matchup went 1-1 with both teams having convincing 2-0s in back-to-back weeks in week 4 and 5. First, it was Griffin getting it done pretty convincingly.
Yeah, this is certainly, when you're talking about the 2-0s respectively that these two teams have against each other, this was the more complete one, I think. Griffin really showed that they were the dominant team in this one.
Yeah, and that was during a stretch where they were playing all the top-tier teams. They got convincing wins against Kingzone, then they dismantled Afreeca, and this was before they kind of had their end-of-season slump where they were still looking like a top team in the regular season. They look like a top team again now, but they didn't at one point. So this was kind of peak Griffin in the middle of the season.
Right, and it's important to remember that the next game there that happened between Afreeca Freecs and Griffin was the one that Afreeca Freecs won with that 2-0 victory, and the big reason, actually, is a large part in the drafting from Griffin was unbelievably poor, really, given the performances and what they had been doing before to this point, because mainly, and I'm going to put it squarely on this one, Viper was playing okay. But the problem here is that you're on a Lucian being funneled, and I can tell you what, that's just not how Lucian works. It does not work that well. And you saw the results here where he cannot teamfight properly, and it really cost Griffin the series.
Yeah, anytime you have a 500 range AD carry as your funnel comp carry, it's probably not going to go too well for you. And the problem with that set was it was back-to-back games. They basically ran the exact same comp twice, and Afreeca completely demolished them twice. So hopefully, for their sake, that they've kind of learned from those drafting errors and have shored up against Afreeca. They've had 2 best-of series to kind of study what Afreeca likes, and that's a pretty big advantage for them, although maybe they're rusty. It's been a few weeks since they played.
Yeah, this is towards the area of the gauntlet that you get to where you have to consider that there could be a little bit of rust coming into these players and into their performances and what they're given. But on the flip side, you do have to think that, yes, we have seen Afreeca Freecs now in these matches against Gen.G and against Kingzone, and there's enough tape here of their recent performance and of their strengths that you can possibly prepare a counter draft strategy against them. And I think that that's what you should be expecting from a team like Griffin, who have been, let's just say courageous enough to bring out the Teemo bot lane.
Yeah, courage is the right word to use with Teemo. That is just a courageous champion to play. Teemo mains all around the world, you guys have a whole lot of courage because you instantly get flames. But let's look at the matchups across the board here for this one. Starting in that top lane where we saw Keen have his way against Khan in that Kingzone series. Next up is Sword, who maybe the laning numbers aren't quite as good as Khan, and obviously Keens are some of the best in the league. But Sword has been pretty consistent for Griffin, and who's next going to get watched this week?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be important. Sword is maybe counting his blessings here that Khan is not coming for him with the big sword for the neck, but he might be wishing it was Khan, because Keen has certainly been performing like the top laner in the world, and he's been doing this performance. Yes, he has been strong in lane himself, holding his opponent there, but the really important thing that I want to bring up is, man, he has been an absolute monster in these team fights for Afreeca Freecs, really coming through when it matters most for the team, and I think that he provides Afreeca Freecs with an already early advantage here in this top lane.
Yeah, I think the advantage definitely goes to the Freaks. You've seen him carry games on the carry champions that are pumping out damage like the Gangplank and Quinn, and then against Kingzone, he was looking pretty darn good on the likes of Cho'Gath and Ornn, getting a lot of 4-man ultis, and pretty much any engage that he was doing on these tank champions was solid. So definite advantage to Afreeca in that top lane. But Sword is no slouch, but Keen is playing at another level now. He looks like 2017 Khan.
Yeah, which is certainly saying something. And hey, he took down Khan, so he's got the reigning crown there. and he's ready to take it into this matchup.
He is the king of the top lane right now. Let's go to the jungle, where Spirit had another fantastic performance against Kingzone and really out-jungled Peanut in 3 of 4 games, which means he's probably going to get the start for the majority of this series. Why wouldn't he? But Tarzan was the best jungler in the LCK, maybe the best performing jungler in the world in 2018 Summer.
You have to expect that it's going to be Spirit to start. As much as I've said before, I like the differences between Spirit and Mowgli, and I think that they both can offer a lot to Afreeca Freecs. You got to roll with the hot hand in Spirit right now, who has really proven himself in these playoffs to be at the top of his level. But he's going up against a tough challenger in Tarzan, who has really been aggressive and has really provided a difference-making role in that jungle position. And I think that right now, I like Tarzan in this matchup, but I think that Spirit does have a chance to prove himself against one of these aggressive junglers like he did against Peanut.
Yeah, Spirit has definitely turned it on to another level here in the playoff run, but I think the advantage, you're right, does go to Tarzan because he's been the player to watch. There's been a lot of players to watch on Griffin, but he's kind of really what gets things rolling for them in the early game. He's constantly involved with this squad, and I think, he's itching to prove himself against some of these veteran players, and he's just gonna probably do that for them. That's why slight advantage in the jungle goes to Tarzan.
Yeah, but you have to be careful because Spirit is that type of veteran jungler who can be ready that if that over-aggression happens from Tarzan, he might catch you reaching into that cookie jar and smack your hand away.
He does love cookies, I've heard.
Who does not like cookies?
There's some people,
allergies. I don't want to meet them.
Chocolate. I'm going to bring someone in. We're going to bring someone in who hates cookies, and that's going to be the whole show. Get ready for that. Next week. Let's go to the mid lane matchup where we saw Kuro has been an absolute animal, the MVP for Afreeca throughout the summer split. But Chovy, don't know if you've heard about him. He's this young rookie who had a 9.3 KDA in the summer split and is all of a sudden crushing people. And by the way, he's born in the 2000s.
Yeah.
The 2000s, Mark.
This is a 17-year-old out here stunting on these other professionals. Look at those numbers. First KDA. First in the CS differential at 15 minutes. It's incredible here. Sorry, 7th there. But it's still important to remember that Chovy, as the 17-year-old, has provided the stability for Griffin in the presence of the mid lane and what he's able to do and get these advantages for himself in his own lane and then bring them elsewhere on the map is truly special. And I gotta say, hey, I hate to see Zoe at almost any time. I really don't want to see Chovy Zoe because it is nasty.
Yeah, he is performing absolutely disgustingly on that champion. I hope it's permabanned in this series for the viewers' sake because it is very toxic. But that is almost a toss-up match. I might give a slight edge. It's hard to give it to Chovy because he has 0 playoff experience on the LCK stage, whereas Kuro, obviously, he's played on Rocks, he's played last split in the finals. He has plenty of experience, so almost that veteran leadership for Kuro maybe evens things out. This one's pretty much a toss-up in the mid lane. Chovy did have some questionable matches to close out the split, but overall he had an absolutely incredible split.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how Chovy handles this playoff debut, but I'm thinking as well here that you have to give slightly the advantage to the Afreeca Freecs. I think Kuro's veteran status here does play into this matchup and how well prepared he will be, the champion pool, things like that. And we have seen the current form of Kuro. Man, he is performing very well. I really like him in this one.
He might not have even reached his peak yet, even though he's been around for a couple of years. Let's go to that bottom lane where it was a surprise performance against Kingzone because Kramer and Tucson completely bodied Prey and Gorilla, which we thought would be one of the biggest advantages for Kingzone in that matchup. So we'll see how the likes of Viper and Lahens hold up to them because Viper finished tied with BDD for 2nd in MVP standings.
Yeah, and deservedly so, I would say, with Viper being up there as far as in this split because he really has popped off. Some of the performances that he's been able to bring up have been spectacular. Even bringing in the Teemo ADC.
You're going to see it in this series?
Certainly possible to see in this series, and it's important to remember that we've had a lot of days of break here. This preparation could be ready to break out something special like the Teemo ADC here. But I think when you're talking about on the other side with Afreeca Freecs and Kramer, it's important to remember that we were expecting to see more of a committee between Kramer and Aiming in this playoff series, but it hasn't happened. We've seen Kramer take over and dominate in that ADC role, and it's really great to watch for Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, I think Spirit and Kramer have played well enough that even if they lose a game, they're probably staying in until they lose 2 games in a row or something like that. And if they start the series like that, well, they're in some serious trouble. But I still, even though Kramer performed so well, I got to give a slight edge to Viper. Let's look at their support buddies in that bottom lane in Lahens and Tucson. 2 guys who absolutely love support Shen. And by the way, Lahens' numbers, he flies under the radar on this Griffin squad, but that's pretty good.
Hey, those numbers are pretty darn good. First, I like to see that. But he's going up against who we've been talking about this whole split, about the playmaking abilities of Tucson and what he brings with the engage and possibilities here. You saw it in the Afreeca Freecs matchup against Kingzone. He could even mess up an engage going in, and the rest of Afreeca Freecs are there to back him up and take down that team fight. That's how well they're playing right now, and I think that it's going to be a very interesting matchup between the 2 supports here, because Lahens does have an opportunity. A lot of times he likes to play the Shen, he likes to play the Pike, be aggressive, get these kills, start stuff rolling, but sometimes overextends himself. And into someone with the brain like Tucson, that can be a certainly dangerous opportunity.
Big LCK bring on Tucson. If you're looking just at supports, I give a slight edge to Tucson, but you're going 2v2, I like Viper and Lahens in that bottom lane. Afreeca is upsetting everybody. Who they got in Mark?
Oh, man.
They keep going?
It's tough. I want to side with the rookies. I really do. But I've learned my lesson. It's time to side with the Afreeca Freecs. It's going to 5. Afreeca Freecs are taken.
It's definitely going to 5, but the Griffin hype train will continue. These are 2 hype trains colliding to meet the ultimate hype train in KT. The train station is getting very convoluted.
Sounds like there's going to be a lot of crashes.
Yeah. They might just all 3 crash, and no teams from Korea will go to Worlds. SKT represents all 3 seeds. Then it's fine. They'll send 3 roster iterations. Impact's playing for SKT. Welcome back.